between Kenya and the Republic of South Korea. Taking a note that the former president of South Korea made a visit to Kenya in 2016, and together with President Uhuru Kenyatta, they signed a couple of MOUs, particularly 7, that was centered around economic and cooperation ties. Now, we just want to take a look at the progress made in terms of the bilateral ties between the two countries. And I'm now joined by the South Korean ambassador to Kenya, Choi Yong-han. Many thanks for making time. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, in terms of the bilateral ties, I mean, going from what was signed between the leaders of these two countries, it is well known that both countries have vested interest towards each other across ICT, across education, manufacturing. But bearing in mind Kenya's Big Four agenda, what progress has been made in terms of trade and at the diplomatic level?
Well, yeah, in terms of trade, the volume of bilateral trade between two countries has been quite increased, especially from the Kenyan side to Korean market. Well, of course, it is true that still there is a little imbalance between the two countries' trade, but the export from Kenya to Korea has been about almost 4 times bigger than before. And then regarding the ICT cooperation, there is one very progressing project between the countries. That is the establishment of Kenya Advanced Institute for Science and Technology, which will be in Konja Digital City. Mm-hmm. So that, it's about the $100 million scale, and then the Korea KAIST will support designing and establishing the Kenya KAIST in Konja City, so that they can begin the Kenya's own science and technology education.
All right, now it seems very good benefits coming from the bilateral relations between the two countries, but I just want to take you back to that point you highlighted in terms of the trade deficit, in terms of the import and exports trade deficit, and mitigating this imbalance right now. What pact has been implemented in order to ensure that, yes, progress has been made, but the amount of goods going to the Korean market are increased day by day, so we can get a proper lateral scale of trade across the two countries?
Well, I think Kenya has a very strong point in exporting agricultural products. Already in Korea, the Kenyan coffee, the AA Kenyan coffee, is very famous and very popular. So the export from Kenya to Korea, the AA coffee, has been increased remarkably.
All right.
And then besides the horticulture is another very strong field of Kenyan agricultural industry, especially the rose are very famous. So I was told that the roses which are selling in every country, almost more than half of them are from Kenya. So those are very prospect products which will be very famous in Korean market.
All right, so agricultural produce and horticultural are strong pillars in Kenya's export market. But now, bearing in mind the Big Four agenda, Kenya's Vision 2030, how exactly is South Korea getting on board to ensure that even as we strengthen the diplomatic ties between the two countries, we also offer assistance in terms of buffering, not just in the ICT sector, agriculture, universal healthcare, you name it, some of the pillars in Kenya's vision?
Well, there has been several cooperation projects between two countries. So I'd like to mention a few models, a few examples of them. And one of them is regarding the food security sector of the Big Four agenda. There is a Korea project of international agriculture, which we say COPIA. We have a branch of COPIA in Nairobi. and they help to increase the products of agricultural parts in the rural area of Kenya. For example, they focused on how to cultivate more effectively the potatoes and other vegetables. And then so they teach those skills and know-hows to the rural area country people. And then the other one is to how to raise chicken more efficiently. So there is one project with the Umbiuni and Machakos County village. So the result has been very good because the benefit of the volume of chicken raised has been increased about 13 times than before.
All right, so proper cooperation ties in order to achieve some goals. But let's shift focus to cultural integration. I saw this somewhere. Mahatma Gandhi said, no culture can live if it attempts to be exclusive. Now, in terms of the cultural diplomacy between the two countries, how exactly is your office pushing for this in terms of the Korean Film Festival or the Korean Week right here in Kenya 2019?
Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning that. Well, actually, the Korean Week of 2019 already begun next week with the Korean Film Festival, which was held in Nairobi University.
Yes.
And then this Wednesday, we will have a National Day reception hosted by the embassy. But this year's reception will be very special because we will do it with the Korean traditional dress fashion show, which is called hanbok. So there will be about 30 mothers wearing a very beautiful Korean traditional dress. And then those mothers are students, Kenyan students and Korean students who are studying in Kenya. So that will be very symbolic one. And then after that, next week, we will have a taekwondo demonstration team from Korea. You know, the taekwondo is a very traditional martial art in Korea, and then which is already very popular in the country. And I was told that there are many Kenyan people who are learning and practicing taekwondo, so this will be a very good event.
All right, we'll definitely get to see the cultural fuse right there. But now on a larger scale, bearing in mind the role that the African Union plays, in terms of the day-to-day activities in the continent, what exactly is South Korea looking at in terms of cooperation with the regional bodies? Talk about the East African Community, talk of the African Union in order to achieve the cumulative goals, the 2063 African Union goal, as well as the regional goals as well.
Yeah, the Korean government is always supporting in line of the African community's goal, and then especially there are several individual projects through African Union, and then also we have a very focusing goal in cooperating with the Eastern African countries through EAC, and then and Kenya is at the very center of this region. So my government see Kenya as the gateway through the whole cooperation with the whole African continent.
All right, now that's very true, strategically positioned. And now in terms of the relationship between the two countries, as I mentioned earlier, we had the former president of South Korea make her way to Kenya in 2016, perhaps a stamp of the proper relations that the two countries share. A couple of memorandum of understandings were signed between the two countries. Now, in terms of the progress made so far in those key issues that were centered around ICT, health, and other range of areas as well, what progress has been made in terms of, sweetening the deal between the two countries?
Yeah, well, as I said before, the KAIST project is one of the most progressed project between two countries after the President Park's visit in 2016. And then regarding that, now they are designing the whole the curricula and the whole building scheme for the Konja city. And then, so we will see maybe the groundbreaking ceremony probably early next year. And after that, we have another cooperation project, actually two. And then one is to build one of the 5 BRT lines in Nairobi city. And those are now in the initial stage of the whole project. And I hope we will see some framework agreement between two countries. And then the other one is to build the intelligence traffic system in Nairobi city. There are, some traffic jams in the city.
Yes.
And then this project will help to make those traffic jam a little headache for the Nairobi city.
All right, we're definitely looking forward to that progress, as we definitely appreciate the good relationship shared between the two countries. Thank you so much, Ambassador Choi Young-han, for making time. We're definitely looking forward to better collaborations between the two countries. And, as you definitely get to tell us what progress has been made so far when it comes to the diplomatic relations between Kenya and South Korea. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now, that is basically that particular conversation we had centered on the bilateral relations between Kenya and South Korea. The ambassador definitely highlighting some of the notable achievements we have made as partners as we foster towards better bilateral ties. Now, hundreds of Libyans have rallied in support of the UN government at Martyrs Square in Tripoli and against the forces of renegade Commander Khalifa Haftar.